Welcome to the official BLV 2023 NFL season preview, where I will give you all of my predictions for the 2023-2024 NFL season, from the regular season to the playoffs, the division winners, the record of every team in the NFC and the AFC, which teams will be the wild cards, which teams will make it to the AFC and the NFC championship games, and of course, who will win the Super Bowl. All that and more in this video. So I recommend, if you don't want the 2023 NFL season to be spoiled, then I'd probably skip this video. But if you're interested in knowing what happens this year in the NFL, Gronk, spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more NFL content just like this. And also, let me know in the comments section below what you think will happen in 2023. What are your predictions for the 2023 NFL season? Who do you think will win the Super Bowl? Who will represent the AFC and the NFC? What are your championship games, your division winners? Anything else you want to give me? Let me know in the comment section below. I always love reading all of the predictions, and I will reply to give you my take on your picks. Let's go. Let's begin with a division by division breakdown of my predictions and my record predictions for every team in the NFL. If you're curious on an in-depth analysis and breakdown on your favorite team, I've already broken down every team in the NFL by division. So make sure to check out my division previews for a full in-depth preview. Here, I'm just going to give you a brief summary of why I believe this team will be successful or not so successful. Let's begin in the AFC East, as always, because that's just how my brain works, guys. It works from AFC to NFC. So let's start at the top with the Buffalo Bills. I have the Buffalo Bills once again winning the AFC East. They have Josh Allen, the best quarterback in the division, one of the best in football. Do we forget that Josh Allen was playing injured last year? They lost Micah Hyde. They lost Von Miller. Tre'Davious White was coming off of an injury. A lot of bad things happened, not to mention Damar Hamlin. I think things go a little bit better this year for the Buffalo Bills, and I actually think they've upgraded some of the aspects of their roster, the offensive line, the defensive line, and even the secondary. The Bills are not done being a contender. They will win this division. The second place team is going to be very interesting, and I'm going with a hot take. Obviously, I'm a tad biased as a Patriots fan myself, but I think everyone is overlooking how good the Patriots will be this year because there's so much hype with the Dolphins and the New York Jets. But the Patriots, what do? They just do their job. They have a phenomenal defense led by some breakout players like Josh Uche and Kyle Duggar this season. Christian Gonzalez in the first round will make an impact. And I believe this is one of the best pass rushes in football. Matthew Judon, Christian Barmore, Belichick scheming things up. They'll be hard to score on. On the other side, they have competent, mature play calling under Bill O'Brien. I believe that makes all the difference for a breakout season from Mac Jones, where he performs as a top 15 quarterback in the NFL. Ramondre and Zeke in the backfield. I think Kendrick Bourne becomes the go-to receiver this year, and I think the Patriots win double-digit games, 10 games to be exact, and advance to the wild card stage and become a wild card team in the AFC. The other two teams, third place was tricky to figure out. I lean towards the Miami Dolphins as that third place team, and the Miami Dolphins could be a dynamic team this year, and I could very well be wrong about the Miami Dolphins missing the playoffs again. They did make it last year. at only 9 wins. I don't think that will be good enough this year. I think they will win 9 games in a similar fashion to last year. I think they're going to start off pretty well, but I think they're going to fade down the stretch. This is a team that's already seen a couple of injuries, including running back Jeff Wilson. This is a team that gets injured a lot, and they have a lot of injured players. Jalen Ramsey. We have to worry about Tua. We always have to worry about Teron Armstead. I just don't think in a competitive AFC, in this AFC East, a team that is as unreliable and volatile as the Miami Dolphins are going to be able to last 17 games and be able to actually make the playoffs. I'm also concerned about the offensive line, the running game, and then the lack of weapons behind Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. I just feel like too much pressure on Tyreek and Jalen to do everything in this offense, and if teams actually start to figure out what Mike McDaniel is calling in the RPO game, they're kind of in trouble. Now, I do think the defense will be better. Jalen Phillips should have a breakout season, same as Javon Holland within this Vic Fangio-schemed defense. But I have my questions about this team lasting a full 17 games. So I'm going to go with 9 wins, and just missing the playoffs is Miami. The 4th place team is the New York Jets. The New York Jets are still 4th place despite adding Aaron Rodgers because I do not trust the worst coaching staff in this division by a long shot. Robert Saleh is not a great head coach in my opinion, and we're going to find that out this year. I respect his defense and his defensive prowess. He has a lot of great players on that side of the ball. Quinnen Williams is a stud. Sauce Gardner is an obvious stud. CJ Mosley, John Franklin Myers. The list goes on. They will have a good defense. Where I worry is the offense. I think Aaron Rodgers will obviously be better at quarterback than what they had, Zach Wilson or Mike White or whoever, but I'm worried about the O-line. I'm worried about Breece Hall coming back to 100%, and I'm definitely worried about the lack of receiving options. If Rodgers is constantly under pressure with a constantly developing injured offensive line, new 5 each and every week, and then he only has one go-to receiver, that's going to be a different situation and an uncomfortable situation for an older quarterback. We kind of saw that with Tom Brady last year. I think the Jets struggle on the offensive side of the football and finish last in the AFC East. But I still think they'll have a winning record, winning 9 games. Moving to arguably the most competitive division in the NFL this year, in my opinion, the AFC North, where I could see all 4 teams winning this division, but I have to go with the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals, man, they have Joe Burrow, they have Jamar Chase, they have a very solid coaching staff that constantly is adjusting and figuring out ways to be successful and continuing their success of the last couple of years. I think the Bengals are the most proven and trustworthy team in this division. I wouldn't be surprised if they started a bit slow, but I think with an improved offensive line and a really awesome defensive line, this Bengals team is as good as any in the AFC, and I think they will be the number 1 seed in the AFC entering the playoffs. The number 2 team in the AFC North is almost guaranteed because of how competitive it is to be a wild card type of team. I'm going with the Baltimore Ravens here. One of the elite quarterbacks that gets absolutely no respect, Lamar Jackson, the great 8, now has the most support offensively of his career. A very solid, good offensive line. Hopefully, they can have some health on that offensive line and in the backfield with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. But I love the receiving core now. I think OBJ is going to shock some people with how much he has left. I think Zay Flowers is going to be the best rookie receiver this season. That's my call. I think Nelson Aguilar, Devin Duvernay can definitely contribute. And then Rashad Bateman is still there and still yet to prove that he was that first round pick quality. And then Mark Andrews is still Mark Andrews. We know what he can do. Defensively, the Ravens are always good. When you think of the Ravens, you think of defense. I think this defense will be very solid. I like the signing of Jadeveon Clowney. I feel like the front is pretty good. I love the Roquan Smith addition and what he can do for this defense of last season. And then you have Marlon Humphrey on the outside, Kyle Hamilton at safety / nickel, Marcus Williams is back. That's awesome. This defense was playing like at an elite level last year at the end of the season. If they can carry that over into this year, wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens dominated. And if Lamar won the MVP, if this team won the division, wouldn't be shocked at all. I have them as the 5th seed in the AFC, though. As the 3rd team in the AFC North, this team could also make the playoffs, and I actually believe they will, whichever team it is, the Steelers or the Browns. And trust me, really hard to figure that one out. I believe the Steelers hype. I think the Steelers will be a solid to good team this year, and I very well might be wrong because I'm going with Cleveland as the 3rd place team in the AFC North to win double digits, to go 10-7. I think the Cleveland Browns, with Deshaun Watson, and all that they did this offseason, people are sleeping on the amount of moves and the amount of turnover the Browns have accomplished this offseason. They have a new, good defensive coordinator in Jim Schwartz, a guy that I respect his defenses. He was the coordinator of the champion Philadelphia Eagles in 2017. He did some great things in Detroit. He even did some good things in Buffalo. This is a guy that can coach defense, specifically a defense that has a really good defensive line, because they added Dalvin Tomlinson. They added a double-digit sack artist in Zadarius Smith to already Defensive Player of the Year candidate Myles Garrett. Then you add Juan Thornhill to the backfield, and this defense could be a lot better. If they could just find a way to stop the run, they're going to be in good shape because their offense is going to be explosive. If Deshaun Watson is just average, you have an awesome offensive line. You have an awesome, arguably the best pure runner in football in Nick Chubb. Elijah Moore was added. You have an awesome number 1 receiver in Amari Cooper. David Njoku is excellent. They've got so much to work with here. Donovan Peoples-Jones. This team is well-rounded from a roster standpoint. It's a matter of Kevin Stefanski, the coaching staff, putting it together, piecing it together, and Deshaun Watson playing at his caliber. If that happens, this team will be dangerous. I have them making the playoffs, even if Deshaun is not quite Deshaun of his Houston days. And then the 4th team in the AFC North, I still think is going to be good. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's no doubt that the Pittsburgh Steelers are one of the most consistent franchises in all of sports. Mike Tomlin deserves a round of applause for that. But I just don't believe in Matt Canada. I don't believe that this offense will take ginormous steps forward. I love what I've seen this offseason. I am believing that George Pickens will be better and Deontay Johnson will bounce back, and I believe that Kenny Pickett is legit. I was a believer from the draft, but I just don't see how this offense compares to the others in this division. I also think the defense is really good, like TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Cameron Hayward, Minkah Fitzpatrick. Don't get me wrong. I like this team. I respect this team. I could see them making the playoffs. I just have to pick someone to finish last year. I still have them winning 9 games and going above 500 because that's what Mike Tomlin does. It's just tough to leave the Steelers out, but I don't believe in the OC, and I think that's the missing piece for this team right now. And Kenny Pickett, maybe one more year to get to the level of making the playoffs within the toughest division in football, in my opinion, the AFC North. Moving to the AFC South, not as tough of a division. We have the Jacksonville Jags winning the division because Trevor Lawrence is that dude. He's that guy. I'm confident that he'll bring his game to the next level in year number 3. Trevor Lawrence has a great support staff around him with Doug Peterson. He had Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, Travis Etienne, a pretty okay offensive line last year. And it's going to be taken to the next level by Calvin Ridley, a guy that looks destined for a massive season and a huge bounce back for his overall character, right? Like, everyone was questioning, what is he doing with that stuff off the field, the gambling? But I think Calvin Ridley is going to have one of the best seasons in the NFL, 100 plus catches, huge season. So I think this offense is going to explode, take over the NFL. They're going to be tough to handle in the run and the pass game with how Doug Peterson calls things. The only question I have is the O-line. Can it be healthy? Can it grow together near the end of the year? May start a little rough, but I think it'll be fine. The defense is where they need growth if they want to be a true contender. I have my questions about whether they did enough to do that, but I feel like Trayvon Walker should take a step forward. I feel like Andre Sisco should take a step forward. We know what Tyson Campbell is. We know what Aluakon is. We know what Josh Allen is. They have enough to get this done. Darius Williams, I think, playing as the CB2 on the perimeter all year will also be quality, but feel like Jacksonville is a little bit more susceptible than other people. I don't think they're quite the lock that other people think, because I'm a little bit higher on another team in this division, but I still lean towards them to win this division and finish as the 4th seed in the AFC playoff race. Then, the number 2 team in the AFC South that I think a lot of people are sleeping on, but I could see upsetting Jacksonville in this division, is the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans just work better as an underdog. They have that mentality. They bring an edge, a chip on their shoulder due to Mike Vrabel that is just unrivaled. Derrick Henry can still get it done on the ground, is still an elite runner. DeAndre Hopkins wants to prove he's still an elite receiver. And that was a huge addition, changing the shape of this offense. By the way, Ryan Tannehill can still play. I think he's going to show that this year. The O-line is pretty bad on paper, but you never know. This is a good coaching staff, and they could surprise you down the stretch, especially if they build momentum early in the season. Really like Chiggy at tight end. Feel like Treylon Burks is bound to break out this year. They have enough weapons to get this thing done, especially considering they have a defense that could be elite this year. They have an awesome defensive line led by Mr. Simmons in the middle. Harold Landry is back on the edge. They added Arden Key. They have Danico Autry. I love the defensive line. And then you've got Al Shire, who's flying off the screen in preseason. And the secondary, I think, should be better, adding a nice piece in Sean Murphy-Bunting, led by the leader, the man, the myth, Kevin Byard. So the Titans, I think, are going to be very competitive, but I don't see them making the playoffs this year if they don't win the division. So I have them going 8-9 and finishing second in the division. The 3rd place team in the division, I have the Houston Texans. Shockingly, I have the Houston Texans over the Indianapolis Colts. I feel like the Texans will be better than they've been in the last couple of years. I think part of that is the O-line, I think, is pretty good, and I think it is underrated. They've got a quality guard now in Shaq Mason, 2 very quality tackles, arguably the best pass-blocking tackle in football, and Laramie Tunsil, or at least one of them. I like the addition of Dalton Schultz. I feel like one of these rookies on offense is going to pop. Maybe it be Tank Dell at wide receiver. And CJ Stroud was my guy. I thought he should have went first. I think he's going to stabilize the quarterback position. Dameon Pierce is bound for a huge fantasy season this year. So I think the offense will be a bit underwhelming, a bit of a roller coaster, but their ability to run the ball will set up CJ Stroud, I think, for a decent rookie year to make them at least more competent than years past. The defense, also led by D'Amico Ryans this year, will be more diverse, less predictable than it was under Lovie Smith, just playing cover 2 every play. And the defensive line should be better. You add Will Anderson, you add a Sheldon Rankins, just a good pro defensive tackle, pretty solid linebackers. You add Denzel Perryman, you add Jimmy Ward to a secondary that has some young studs in Petrie and Stingley. So I feel like the Texans should be a better team this year. They're just not there yet, and I have them finishing 3rd. The team that I have falling to last place is the Indianapolis Colts, finishing 4th in the South. I just think the Colts have a lot of holes. I think they have a lot of holes on defense. Really, the secondary. Who the heck is playing corner for this team? I mean, it's pretty bad. It's pretty disgusting if you ask me. Safety position is kind of the same. I love the linebackers, and I like the defensive line, especially the interior duo, Buckner, Stewart, but the edge rush doesn't have enough for me. And then the offense, I mean, you got Anthony Richardson, a rookie quarterback who's very young. He's going to make mistakes. He's not a proven passer. He's a great athlete, not a proven passer. The receiving core is all right. The O-line is all right. The run game, lacking Jonathan Taylor, big loss, and a rookie head coach. I think this team will just be in for a rebuilding, retooling season. I think they need another year and another year of development for that quarterback position in order to get to where they want to go. So the Colts will finish last in the South. Moving to the AFC West, the final division within this AFC. The obvious team will win the division, and it's the Kansas City Chiefs. If the Chiefs don't win this division, it would be one of the biggest shockers of the NFL season. You got Patrick Mahomes, you got Andy Reid, you got Travis Kelce. I think you have Chris Jones. Regardless, I think he'll be back at some point during this year. I just can't see him holding out that long. But the Kansas City Chiefs have a really good O-line, especially that interior that keeps Mahomes protected, and that will find him finding a receiver at some point, because I am a little bit worried about the receiver depth chart. Will Sky Moore step up? Will Kadarius Toney be the breakout? Without Juju now moving on to New England, there is a question of who is the next guy behind Kelsey. Kelsey is getting older. He can only do this so long. I still expect a productive season from him, but you never know for a fall off. And Isaiah Pacheco, I think, will have a very solid season in the backfield. You still got Jerick McKinnon. This offense will still be a machine. It's great from a play calling and scheme standpoint. A great protection unit, and obviously you got the best quarterback at the helm. Defensively is where they could take a massive step forward with a lot of young players hopefully developing in the right direction, from Cook at safety, McDuffie at corner, Karlaftis on the D-line. This is a team that has a very solid linebacking depth chart. They have pretty solid safeties overall. They did lose one of their key pieces in Thornhill, but they added back Mike Edwards, a proven winner, and a corner position that I think is a lot better than given credit for. The Chiefs defense could actually help aid the offense towards maybe a little bit of a slower start you would expect, but I feel like the Chiefs are still going to be an elite team in this AFC that gets every team's best effort. I think they'll finish as the 2 seed entering the playoffs. The second team in the AFC West, I think it has to be the Chargers. The Chargers are interesting because I feel like they have a chance to break out this year, like it feels like every year. But when you have Justin Herbert and the amount of skilled players they have on this team, like the amount of elite talents they potentially possess, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Rashawn Slater, Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Derwin James, JC Jackson, Michael Davis, these guys could all be at an elite level. Like, we've seen it, right? Even like Eric Kendricks, who they added to hopefully help stop the run game. They have a ridiculous amount of individual talent. Can Brandon Staley hone that in, shape it up to make a good Charger football team, which it feels like every Charger coach has had an issue to do that and create that culture of a good team more than good individuals. Herbert is an awesome, skilled quarterback. Eckler is one of the most versatile backs in the game, and they've got an awesome offense that I think Kellen Moore is going to take to the next level. The defense does scare me against the run, but I feel like they have to be better if they get a healthy Joey Bosa. I think the Chargers are just one of those teams in a very competitive AFC that if they don't play to their maximum effort every game, which they typically don't, and they usually make mistakes and they usually get injured, if those things happen again, they're going to fall short of making the playoffs this year because this conference is just way too tough. But I do have them finishing second in the division. The third place team in the division, I've got the Las Vegas Raiders, which is going to be a surprise to a lot of people because many have the Denver Broncos really getting better this year. And I think it's going to be the Raiders that surprisingly get a little bit better than expected. I think Jimmy Garoppolo will stabilize the leadership of the quarterback position. I think he'll understand his spot in this culture that McDaniels is trying to build with the Raiders. And then also, I think he'll be a better quarterback in this system where Derek Carr was really bad in a lot of big moments for the Raiders last year. The O-line is pretty darn good, especially when it comes to run blocking. And I think Josh Jacobs is going to have another explosive year on the ground. Devontae Adams is still elite. Jacoby Myers is going to be a really quality number 2. Now Renfrow slots as the number 3, which is perfect for him. They've got a plethora of tight ends. The rookie Mayer might step up. And I really like what they've done to the defensive line, adding Tyree Wilson to Max Crosby, Chandler Jones. They could be a lot better in the pass rush this year, and hopefully they can figure some things out in the secondary. I still have my questions about this defense. If I knew that this defense would be at least average, I'd actually pick them as a sleeper dark horse contender to make the playoffs because the offense is going to be good. It's not a matter of whether they'll score points. It's a matter if they can stop teams. I think it's going to be hit and miss with that. So I have them finishing with about 7 wins, third place in this division. The Denver Broncos, I see in a similar lane. Like, I feel like they're going to win 7, 8-ish type of games, but they're going to be an ugly team once again. I think Sean Payton will try to get the most out of Russell Wilson. I'm just not sure how much he has left. I am very much doubting that process. I'm doubting Russell Wilson, and I hope he proves me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I hope he proves me wrong. I just don't see it. I think the receiving core is already banged up, damaged goods. Jerry Jeudy is going to enter the year injured, and you never know if he's going to rejuvenate that. And then you have Cortland Sutton, who looks like he is just done. Maybe he'll get better this year. Maybe he'll bounce back this year. I just don't know, man. I don't know. You've got Marvin Mims, who's a rookie. The tight end position is young. The O-line should be better. I like the improvements. I like the additions of Powers and McGlinchey. I think it secures an O-line that was a bit shaky last year. Javonte Williams also coming off of injury. This offense is just already injured, and I think that's really going to hurt them, especially early in the year, to get some momentum going. The defense is good. It's solid. They don't have a lot of holes. I think Simmons and Surtain are certainly the standouts in the secondary. They lack an explosive number one pass rusher. Can that be Randy Gregory? They hoped it would be. They replaced Draymond Jones with Zach Allen. I just don't think they did a lot to overcome, this offense being so bad last year. I think a lot of it was Hackett, so I feel like Peyton will fix some of it. I just don't think they have enough talent in this AFC to really be a good double-digit type of win team. I think they'll be competitive in a lot of games. I think they'll just fall short in a lot of games. So I have them winning 7, finishing last in the AFC West. That is the AFC. Our final standings and our playoff teams for the AFC, the Cincinnati Bengals as the number 1, the Kansas City Chiefs as the number 2, the Buffalo Bills are the number 3, the Jacksonville Jags win the AFC South as the number 4 team. The top wild card I have going to the Baltimore Ravens. The second wild card, I'm going with the Cleveland Browns, and the final wild card spot, your New England Patriots. Now transferring over to the NFC, beginning once again in the East, because I work East to West. So let's start with the top, where the Dallas Cowboys will win the NFC East. Yes, the Dallas Cowboys, not the Philadelphia Eagles, I believe are the best team in the East this year. I think when you look at Dallas, last year they were a 12-win team. They were missing their starting quarterback for a ton of games last year, and they still managed to win 12 games. They had an elite defense. Really, it was the offense that was a bit shaky. They moved on from the OC, and they brought in a big-time weapon in Brandon Cooks, a guy that I think is going to open up the offense for Dak Prescott, allow Dak Prescott to bounce back to top 10 levels of quarterback play that we've seen him at before for much of his career, really. I think Brandon Cooks opens up things, stretches defenses out, allows CeeDee Lamb, Tony Pollard. By the way, the starting workhorse running back Tony Pollard is now going to be that dude. I think Ferguson will replace Schultz just fine. And I think Michael Gallup, another year removed from a major injury, is going to be a lot better this year. And I think I like that O-line and the wide receiver depth. So I think the Dallas offense will be better than it was last year, more consistent than it was last year. And pretty much under Dak, they've been pretty good for most of his career. The defense, I think, could be the best in football. Again, they fixed their biggest offensive issue, number 2 receiver. Now they've fixed their biggest defensive issues. Mozzie Smith on the interior defensive line, one of their biggest needs. He's a first-round pick, monster, that I think will enter the rotation of this defensive line that features Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, a ton of depth behind them, and I feel they're going to be one of the best pass rushes in football. The linebacking position might be their weakness, but Leighton Vander Esch, as long as he's healthy, will secure that pretty well. The safety trio, in my opinion, is the best in football. And the other weakness, well, they solidified that with a Hall of Famer, Stephon Gilmore, who's still playing at an elite level opposite Trayvon Diggs. They get Jordan Lewis back. They have Deron Bland. I feel like they have so much depth in the secondary, the best secondary in football entering this year. In my personal opinion, this team is loaded. This team is awesome. And usually the NFC East champion doesn't repeat. I think Dallas will win the division and finish as the number 2 seed in the NFC entering the playoffs. The second place team is obviously the Philadelphia Eagles. It's a 2-team race in the East. Both teams have elite rosters. Both teams have awesome football teams on offense and defense. The Eagles are a little bit different from Dallas. Dallas, I think it's the defense that really gets my blood boiling. With the Eagles, it's the offense. The offense, I think, could be the best in football this year. I think Jalen Hurts is a legitimate MVP candidate if they can win this division. You got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. The backfield is interesting. Like, is Swift going to be the guy? Is he also going to get hurt? Rashad Penny, another guy that's kind of a Band-Aid. Kenneth Gainwell, can he step up? Who's it going to be? But Dallas Goedert, I think Jalen Hurts is going to power the running game by himself. The O-line is phenomenal. That overall balance is just really tough to compete with. The defense is where I really have questions. They're replacing a lot of key components. Both safeties, both linebackers, That's a big deal to me. That's the whole middle of the defense. They're also replacing the defensive play caller and schemer in Jonathan Gannon. As corny as he is, he did pretty well for this team. Love the D-line rotation. I think it's arguably the deepest in football. Brandon Graham is back for another year, same as Fletcher. And then you have a D-line that, Hassan Reddick, Sweat. You add Jalen Carter, as talented as he is, but you did get rid of Javon Hargrave, who was an absolute stud. So there's some things that I really like what the Eagles did this offseason, but it was more about maintaining that roster, that Super Bowl roster, while the Cowboys were more about getting better. And I think the Cowboys will find a way to surpass the Eagles. Well, the Eagles will still be very good, a double-digit win team, but more of a wild card with that extra added pressure of being the NFC champions. Everyone's going to want to beat them this year, which is a lot different from last year where they snuck up on everybody. The number 3 team in the NFC East, I still have being the New York Giants. The New York Giants, I think, actually got better from a talent standpoint this offseason. The question is, will they be able to surprise people like last year, win those close games like last year, get as lucky as they did last year? This team had some crazy feats last year, like the turnover rate was ridiculously low. I think the lowest the Giants have ever had in the last 20 years. So they were really, really good at protecting the ball. Daniel Jones didn't throw a lot of deep passes at all, lowest rate in the NFL. They still found a way to move the ball, score points, and do their thing. Can Paris Campbell, Jalen Hyatt, Darren Waller unlock Daniel Jones down the field? That's possible. The O-line definitely could get better with a second-round pick at center now. Evan Neal is second year. Definitely looking for development there. Saquon Barkley could be even better than last year. I think a lot of people kind of sleeping on what Saquon can do. I feel like Saquon could get back to the best running back in football this year, and I wouldn't be that surprised. And then defensively, I think they're better, right? Don Martindale is going to do his thing. He's going to be aggressive. He's going to be creative. He's going to find ways to scheme it up. You add a first-round pick in Banks, a guy that I like, at the corner position. You have McKinney at safety. You add a big-time linebacker in the middle with my guy Bobby. And then you have Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams. Hopefully Thibodeau can take a step forward. Ojulari is back. So this defense could definitely be better than last year. The offense could be better than last year. But at the same time, they played a cupcake schedule last year. They benefited from low expectations. And I think they shocked the world with their coaching. Can their coaching still be that elite level? I think some teams will figure them out a little bit better and see what the Eagles were able to do so successfully, but I still think they're going to be competitive. I wouldn't be shocked if they made the wild card again, but given the tough, difficult schedule, I don't see 3 teams from this division making the playoffs. So I'm going to say the Giants just miss with an 8-9 record. The final team in the NFC East, the bottom team, is the Washington Commanders. And I like the Commanders. That's the thing that sucks about this. This is such a competitive division. This is the best division in the NFC, really. And I see the Commanders being a pretty competitive team that probably pulls off multiple upsets. I think Sam Howell will be the most promising young quarterback you've had in a long time. I love the receiver duo of McLaurin, hopefully healthy, and Dotson. The O-line's a bit shaky. The running game, I think, is a bit shaky. But I do look forward to Eric Bieniemy unleashing a deep ball to Terry McLaurin and deep shot plays for Sam Howell, who does have a big arm, on top of a pretty athletic, little bit of running legs there as well. The defense should be really good again. They were a top 10 defense last year. They've got an awesome D-line led by Payne and Allen, arguably the best interior duo in football. And the secondary should be better with some young additions, first-round pick, second-round pick used on the secondary. I'm a little lacking the trust of Ron Rivera, but this team could be a lot better than people think. It's just a really hard schedule, a really tough division. I have them winning about 7 games this year. Moving to the NFC North, the top team in the North, I think, is the team that everyone expects to win the North. I think it's the Detroit Lions. And that's crazy to say. Everyone expects the Detroit Lions to win a division. That doesn't sound accurate. But the Detroit Lions, I think, are here. And I think they're ready for this time. I think Jared Goff's been there. And that gives me some confidence. This isn't a young guy that everyone's expecting the world from. We're just expecting Jared Goff to play like Jared Goff. And if that happens, I think this team will score a lot of points because they've got an awesome offensive line. Jahmyr Gibbs is about to explode onto the scene in the NFL, catching the football, running the football. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown might have a Wes Welker 140 reception type of season. I feel like Laporta could be pretty good near the end of the year. Jamison Williams hopefully gets his head out of his rear end by the end of the year, and they can get things going there. But if not, Reynolds and Jones can pick up the slack offensively. Plus, you got Ben Johnson, a guy that I think will be a head coach next year. Defensively, I think this is where they really improve and take some pressure off of Goff on offense. I think Aiden Hutchinson, apparently my twin, has a good year this year. The D-line has a nice deep rotation. And the secondary is a lot better. I mean, substantially better than last season. Emmanuel Mosley, and then you have Cam Sutton, Branch, all the additions they've made, CJ Gardner-Johnson. A lot of diversity here in terms of positionless football. Jack Campbell's another guy. Loved him coming out of the draft. So I think the Lions defense is going to shock a lot of people it might take a little time because there's a lot of new additions. But by the middle of the year, I think they're going to hit their stride and play like top 15 type of defense. And if they can do that with a top 10 offense, they're going to be a good football team in an NFC. I think they win double-digit games. I think they win the division. The second place team in this division might be a little surprising to people, but I actually have the Green Bay Packers finishing second in this division. I believe in Jordan Love. I think he is a good football player. I liked him coming out of the draft. I like what I've seen in the NFL. I feel like Jordan Love has all the arm talent, and now he has the experience. Learning behind Aaron Rodgers, it's taken some time, but we saw that with Aaron Rodgers. I think Love is going to make the throws to my guy Christian Watson, who I think is going to explode this year onto the scene as an elite receiver and an elite number one receiver. He's an absolute freak, and I think he's going to showcase that week after week. We also have Romeo Doubs, who I like more than others. I think Jalen Reed contributes. I think Luke Musgrave contributes. I like the additions they've made this offseason in terms of the young youth of the offense. And then the offensive line's always good in Green Bay. Everyone knows that, okay? That is just a fact of life. Green Bay has a good O-line, and with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon running it, they're going to be able to stay balanced and do their thing. And I think Matt LaFleur is going to get the most out of Jordan Love. I think they're going to have more of a coherent strategy offensively than last year. I think they're going to be more on the same page. I think there's going to be more confidence in the system this year than what it was last year with Aaron Rodgers and the lack of trust between the young receivers and Rodgers. I think there's going to be more of a collective unit in Green Bay this year. Defensively, they've got all the talent in the world. We know that. They've got an elite corner who could be the best in the NFL in any given week, in any given moment, in Alexander. One of the only guys capable of slowing down Justin Jefferson in football. Safety position's a bit weak, but I feel like the linebackers can make up for that. I think Quay Walker's going to have a huge year. Devondre Campbell's a good football player. Kenny Clark's an awesome player. Rashawn Gary is back, an absolute game wrecker, and Preston Smith's good. I love the addition of Lucas Van Ness. So this defense can be complete all over the place as long as they get good scheming, hopefully for the first time in a long time in Green Bay on defense. They're the number 2 team, and I actually have them going to the playoffs, being a wild card team, at the final wild card team as the 7th seed in the NFC. The 3rd place team in the North, I still got the Minnesota Vikings finishing ahead of the Bears. But they are going to fall off this year. There's no doubt about it. I feel like the Vikings offense is going to be still competent, but I just don't think they're going to be as lucky or fluky as they were last year. I mean, Justin Jefferson's not going to be making one-hand catches in Buffalo over 4 people for a game-winning drive on 4th down in like 1,000. So it's just not going to happen where you're going to have 8 game-winning drives. And I think their defense was more talented last year. I feel like their offense, while I feel like you could argue it might be better this year in terms of Jordan Addison over Adam Thielen, having Hawkinson a full year, I just think the running game is going to be less competent without Dalvin Cook. And the O-line, I think's pretty good, not fantastic. I just think Cousins and this entire offense and Kevin O'Connell, they're just going to be less in their bag when it comes to 2-minute situations and bailing this defense out time after time because the defense is really bad. It's really bad. And I love Brian Flores. There's only so much you can do with a limited defensive backfield, a limited pass rush. I just don't see it. There's too many young players. I think they need a season where they kind of go through it and they're able to rebuild a little bit and retool a little bit. We'll see what happens after the year with Kirk Cousins. But I don't see this having a great feel for it after the year. If they make the playoffs, I genuinely believe that Kirk Cousins should be in MVP conversations, because that is extremely impressive to carry a team 2 years in a row with like no defense at all. So the Vikings, I have third place, winning about 7 or 8 games this year. The fourth place team in the NFC North is still the Chicago Bears. I don't think they've made enough additions. They haven't improved enough for me to really be convinced that they're that team, okay? The O-line, I do think, is better. I think Nate Davis, Darnell Wright will significantly improve, especially the right side of the offensive line. Justin Fields, though, you guys know I'm not the biggest believer in. I don't think that a guy that is that bad of a passer can lead you to wins in the NFL. He's a great athlete and a superb runner of the football. But as a passer, he is limited to the point where the offense cannot run to an elite level, and it cannot be sustainable in the NFL. DJ Moore will help, but I don't think it will be enough. The defense, lacking a pass rush, absolutely, despite adding Yannick Ngakoue and Walker. The linebacking core will be a lot of fun, but without a good D-line, I don't think it's really going to happen for this defense. And the secondary still has a lot of question marks, despite having one of my favorite safety duos in football. So the Bears will finish last in the division. Moving to the NFC South, the number 1 team I have is the shocking Atlanta Falcons. I just feel like the Atlanta Falcons are a football team that have an identity. They know who they are. They know what they want to be. It's Bijan and more Bijan, baby. And that's why you should be drafting him in fantasy football. Bijan Robinson is going to have an absolutely humongous season this year. I think he's going to run people over. He's going to catch and run by people. And he is going to win Rookie of the Year. And he might even be in the MVP conversation, because the Atlanta Falcons will win the division because they're going to run the ball like nobody's ever seen. Desmond Ridder's going to attempt about 12 passes a game. They're all going to be to Drake London and Kyle Pitts. And this team is going to be a top 15, top 12 offense in football. And the defense will be competent enough with the additions of Calais Campbell, David Onyemata, Jesse Bates. That's going to allow the defense to be good against the run. They've got a bunch of big people. I think they're going to be very tough, very physical, which is a rare breed of football in an NFC South that's a little soft. So I think the Atlanta Falcons, despite Desmond Ridder, are going to make the playoffs, even if they have a losing record at about 8-9, because this division sucks. Let's be honest. The number 2 team is the New Orleans Saints, a team that I think very well could win this division if Derek Carr plays like Derek Carr did a couple years ago, if the defense is still good enough. But I have my worries about both things. Derek Carr played like absolutely doo-doo last year. I mean, he was bad. People are overlooking it. He was bad. I don't know if he'll be able to reclaim that. Now, maybe Chris Olave will help. The O-line in New Orleans, I think, might be a better pass-blocking unit than the one from the Raiders last year. Alvin Kamara suspended. Jamal Williams is there. I think they'll be able to get a run game going a bit. But the O-line, the play calling and all that on offense, I don't see it as, like, incredible. Jawan Johnson, I think, is going to have a nice breakout year this year. I don't think Michael Thomas will be able to play 17 games. And I don't think he's near the same player as he used to be. So I am denying and doubting that absolutely. But I think Olave and Johnson will do some special things. I think Kamara is definitely on the downside of his career. And I just don't think Derek Carr is still that dude. I don't see it. I don't see it. Defensively, I feel like the D-line is in the worst shape it's been in years. And that's really where I struggle with this team. Cameron Jordan is old, and he is being counted on to be the best pass rusher on this team. And I just don't know if you can do that, right? I just don't think the pass rush is going to be that great. The D-line is not the same. They lost multiple starting pieces from Tuttle to Davenport to Onyemata, right? They've got a lot of young players that they want to ascend. They need to ascend, but I don't know if they will ascend. And then the linebacking position is still good, but Demario Davis is old. The safety position is still good, but Tyrann Mathieu is old. The corner position is pretty good, but they need young players to step up. I feel like the Saints, their window has passed them by and they're holding on for dear life. And I just don't think it's going to work. I don't think it's going to work out. The third place team in the NFC South is going to be the Carolina Panthers. Carolina Panthers, I had at one point this offseason winning the division, and I very well could see them still winning the division. If Bryce Young is Bryce Young, like a lot of people have been telling me, oh man, this guy sees the game like nobody's business. This guy's got the vision of Peyton Manning and the elusiveness to be able to make plays on his own and do it without a receiving core, because he's going to have to, because DJ Chark, talented, but injured a lot, right? Adam Thielen, older than dirt, okay? Older and slower than dirt, potentially. Then you also have a rookie, maybe, a Mingo, maybe. Terrace Marshall, kind of a bust. Tight end position, Hayden Hurst. He's okay if he's like the 4th or 5th option. Miles Sanders, overpaid, but he should be okay as the running back. The O-line is what concerned me in the preseason, but on paper, it's a good unit. So hopefully he's protected, and if he is protected, he can use that elusiveness, the arm talent to make those plays and make those throws to win enough games, because the defense will be pretty good. Brian Burns, right? Brown in the middle. You add Justin Houston, I think, was the missing piece of that D-line. I think that's really going to help them be awesome in the pass rush and dominate games up front. Linebacking position's good with Luvu and Thompson. The safety position improved with Bell. And J.C. Horn could be one of the best corners in football as soon as this year. So the Panthers have a defense. I like Frank Reich. I like Evero. I like what they've done with the coaching staff. I just think the offense is lacking a lot of explosiveness. It's lacking any big-time playmakers. It might be the worst receiver room in football. So the Panthers, I still think, are a year away, an offseason away from claiming the NFC South theirs. The 4th team in the NFC South is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I hate to say this because I like the Bucs, but Baker Mayfield is not winning games. He's just not. I saw him play in Carolina. I saw him even play in LA, and I've seen enough of him in Cleveland. The guy is, I just don't think he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. He has a great personality. He makes great commercials. Baker, the commercial maker. But Mike Evans is already kind of like looking like he's going to get traded. I mean, Chris Godwin, loved the guy. I think he's going to catch 1,000 passes this year because he has to, but I don't think that's really going to do much. The O-line is already shaky. Ryan Jensen retired, unfortunately. Love that guy. The running game, I think Rachaad White's going to get a lot of work, but I just don't. Last year it was like one of the worst in human history. So can the offensive coordinator position be that much better? I don't know, man. It's not like you're adding Kyle Shanahan. And then the defense, still decent, but not what it used to be, right? This is not the prime Shaq Barrett. This is not Vita Vea's not going to be able to just do it all himself in the pass rush. They need more out of those other guys. Can Kalijah Cansey do it? Can Greg Gaines be the addition they need, the spark they need? Can Joe Tryon-Shoyinka finally break out of his shell? Because they need someone to step up. Because Shaq Barrett, I just don't think he's there anymore. The linebacker position, Devin White, will he be great Devin White or bad Devin White? Levante David, still great, right? Antoine Winfield Jr., phenomenal football player. Corner position is still pretty good. The defense will be solid. They'll keep them in games. I just don't think they'll have enough on offense to win enough games. I think they're going to be pretty bad. So I have them finishing last in the NFC South. The NFC West is our final division here. And I have the San Francisco 49ers predictably winning the division and finishing as the number 1 seed entering the NFC playoffs. I think Brock Purdy is legit. And that is my statement for the 49ers. Because if Brock Purdy is legit, this is the best team in the NFC. They have the best defense, arguably in the NFL. An awesome defensive line. I mean, I can't wait to watch Nick Bosa whenever he decides to sign that contract. Playing with Javon Hargrave and Eric Armstead, forget about it. Okay, Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw behind it. Charvarius Ward, Hufanga behind it. I mean, oh my goodness. Then you got an offense with CMC for a full year. Just imagine what Kyle Shanahan's been labbing up, cooking up in that lab for CMC for a full year. Kittle, Debo with a chip on his shoulder, Ayuk. I mean, Trent Williams. The O-line, they lost McGlinchey, but I'm not too concerned because he was kind of a pylon at times. So the 49ers are dominant on defense, explosive on offense, and I think they have a young, ascending quarterback that they have confidence in for the first time in a while. That might make all the difference for them to win 13, 14 games this regular season. The number 2 seed in the NFC West will not make it easy on the 49ers. I have it being the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks, I think, will make the playoffs as the 5th seed in the NFC entering those playoffs. Geno Smith, to me, is legit. I believe in Purdy. I believe in Geno. I think Geno, what we saw last year, is real. The O-line, I think, will improve. Young players ascending at tackles. The center position should be better. I love the receiver trio. Whenever Jackson Smith-Njigba is fully healthy, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, who I think is going to have a massive year, DK Metcalf, I think those guys are going to be uncoverable at times. Kenneth Walker, I think, is a star in the making. And the defense is the most promising Seahawk defense in a long time. Probably since like 2016, 2015 era of Seahawks football. This defense could have a shutdown corner duo with Witherspoon coming to town, with Woolen on the other side. A trio of safeties that could be dominant in Love, adding to Adams and Diggs. Bobby Wagner with Brooks in the middle. Draymond Jones fixing the interior defensive line pass rush. Nwosu coming off the edge after his best season of his career last year, maybe even better this year. And I think they're going to get some guys breaking out on that D-line, like Mafe potentially. So I feel like Seattle is going to be a double-digit win team, finish number 5 in that NFC. And then you have the 3rd and 4th place teams. Both teams, I think, are going to absolutely stink. But I would give the respect to Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford, for as long as he can stay healthy. The Los Angeles Rams should finish 3rd in this division. If they finish 4th, that is massively disappointing. It's weird to say, because I hate fading Sean McVay, because I think he's a fabulous coach, a great leader of men. But it's hard to believe in this team. The offense, I mean, Cooper Kupp's already hurt. So who are you going to? Van Jefferson? That's it? Tyler Higbee? Cam Akers? All those guys are kind of average add-ons, not stars, right? Stafford's banged up every year. I don't know how long he's going to last. I don't even know if he's the same player. He could definitely fall off this year. The O-line is a little shaky, although it can't be any worse than last year. And the defense has no one other than Aaron Donald. So, yeah, Stafford, McVay, the core will win them a few games, make them respectable in others. But they're not going to win enough games to be competent. I think they win 4 or 5 type of games this year. Rams are going to finish 3rd in this division because the other team is so bad. I mean, the Arizona Cardinals are the worst team in football, easily. They are going to get Caleb Williams next year. They might win 1 game. I really think Joshua Dobbs is your quarterback. Are you serious? Serious. Are you going to play the rookie maybe? I don't know. Like, the offense, Marquise Brown and James Conner are your go-to weapons. That is not good. The O-line is whatever. The defense is terrible. I mean, they have no pass rush. No pass rush. No corners. I feel bad for Budda Baker. Cardinals are bad. And I feel bad for Cardinals fans, but they're going through a big-time rebuild. They're going to have 2 premier picks, which they can look forward to in the draft. So those are the NFC standings. My playoff teams for the NFC. We have the San Francisco 49ers as the number 1 seed. The Dallas Cowboys as the number 2. The Detroit Lions as the number 3. Number 4, I got the Atlanta Falcons. Number 5, the top wild card, the Philadelphia Eagles. The number 6 is the Seattle Seahawks. The number 7 is the Green Bay Packers. Those are your NFC standings. And now it's time to predict those playoffs. Let me know who you have making the playoffs in the comment section below. Let's begin in the AFC with the number 2 seed, Kansas City Chiefs, hosting Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots as the number 7 seed. These 2 teams play during the regular season in New England on Monday Night Football. And I actually have the Patriots upsetting the Chiefs in that regular season game. Luckily for the Chiefs, they play the Patriots during the regular season. I think that actually helps them avoid an upset in the playoffs. Because with the Patriots, you always have the wild card of a special game plan from Bill Belichick, which very well I believe will happen on that Monday night game. But now that you have that game plan out of the way, it's going to be less tricky. And I think the Chiefs, while the Patriots will make this interesting, running the football, staying balanced on offense, chewing the clock, protecting the ball, doing everything Belichick wants to do on offense. And then defensively, one of the top 3 defenses in football with a young but diverse secondary that can cover anybody. And then a pass rush that's going to be challenging and athletic for this offensive line of Kansas City. The big differences are Mahomes making magic in the key moments, Travis Kelce being a playmaker that the Patriots don't possess, and then the home field of Kansas City. New England having to go to Kansas City. Those are the differences for me for why the Chiefs rebound against New England and move on to the divisional round in a tight game. I think closer than people would think. Something like a 27-20, 24-17 type of game. But the Chiefs are able to overcome and advance to the divisional round. The next AFC matchup is the number 3 Buffalo Bills taking on the number 6 Cleveland Browns. This is a matchup that I think Cleveland fans would definitely get excited for because, first of all, they're in the playoffs. But second of all, I think the Bills are a team that they could look at and say, if we play our best, we could win this game. Deshaun Watson has beat Josh Allen before in the playoffs, remember. But Josh Allen wants that revenge. So it's a double-edged sword. I will say Cleveland being a run-heavy team definitely helps them going to Buffalo in a place that definitely will be cold, definitely will be windy. I think Allen's definitely better in that type of weather and environment than a Deshaun Watson is. I will say that much. And I think that the Bills are just the more experienced playoff team. They know how to play in these games. They know they can disappoint. I think last year was significantly disappointing in their own building, losing to the Bengals and getting slaughtered, getting embarrassed. I don't think they let that happen again. I think they have a good game plan for slowing down Nick Chubb. I think Watson makes a couple mistakes that Josh Allen doesn't. And I think one of the key factors will be Josh Allen's legs in this game, along with the fact that I think somebody like Dalton Kincaid will step up. Somebody you don't expect. I think the Bills just have the more consistent football team on offense and defense, the more experienced, grizzled team in these moments. I think they win something like 28-24. Moving to the next matchup, in the AFC, you have the number 4 and the number 5. The Jacksonville Jags host the Baltimore Ravens in a rematch of the regular season. I actually had this game going both ways. I flipped it either way. I had at one point Jacksonville winning, at another point Baltimore winning. So this would definitely be a great game in Jacksonville. Lamar Jackson, I believe, is from Jacksonville, if I'm not mistaken. He's at least from Florida. I know that for a fact. Lamar Jackson will just relish this opportunity. I feel like getting back to the playoffs, being healthy, where he hasn't been able to lead his team to January in a couple of years, I think he's going to dominate this game. I think he's going to go off. And I feel like the Ravens are going to shockingly go into Jacksonville and dominate and have an impressive showing in this game. And while I do believe in Jacksonville, and I do feel Trevor Lawrence, Calvin Ridley will be a handful at times, I think Baltimore has the more well-rounded team. I think they've got the better overall all 3 phases. And like I said, I just feel like Lamar is going to dominate Jacksonville's defense through the air, on the ground. Too much balance to speak of and defend for Jacksonville's young defense. They're just not there yet. Baltimore knows this moment. They will move on to the divisional round to take on their AFC North rivals, the Cincinnati Bengals, in the 1 versus the 5 matchup. This one's tough because I feel like this is one of those games almost to me like the New England Patriots in the past when they used to play the Ravens, like a great matchup for the Ravens. Like they know how to play this team. They know how to match up with this team. And it feels like for the Bengals, if they beat the Ravens in this game, they'll have so much of a boost, so much confidence that they'll make the Super Bowl. And that's kind of the way that I think of it. Almost like that 2014 New England versus Baltimore. And I think it could be an epic back and forth type of game between 2 well-prepared teams. I think the Bengals are going to be rested. They're at home. Joe Burrow knows how to win these games, and he has a better resume in the playoffs than Lamar. I will say that. I think the Bengals pull it off in the end. I think it comes down to a field goal type of game, and Joe Burrow leads them down for a game-winning field goal by McPherson. I think the key difference for me is I don't think the Ravens' pass rush is enough here. Against a guy like Joe Burrow, I don't think they're able to get to Joe Burrow consistently enough. I think the O-line of the Bengals is going to dominate, and I think it's going to be so much better than last year's offensive line. It's going to make all the difference. Allow them to stay a little balanced on the ground with Joe Mixon. Allow to hit the big plays to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. And when Joe Burrow has time with these weapons, it's impossible to stop them. I think at home, they take advantage. They win that game. The number 2 and the number 3 matchup is the classic Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, head-to-head, once again in the playoffs. The Chiefs just survived the New England Patriots. The Bills have seen the Patriots multiple times throughout the years, and they have a chance here to finally beat Kansas City in the playoffs. Go to Arrowhead and do it. And I think this is the year they do it. I think they beat the Chiefs in this game, and this is a little bit of an upset and definitely a off-the-wall prediction because the Chiefs have made the AFC Championship every year since 2018. So for me to predict that they won't do that is something. But I think the Bills, I think they're the better team. I think they've got more depth in the receiving core. I think if Allen's healthy, he can go toe-to-toe with Mahomes, back and forth with Mahomes. We've seen it before. I think the O-line of the Bills is better than years past. And I'm not quite sure the Chiefs' D-line will really dominate them like you would think. James Cook is a guy that I think could have a huge breakout year. And especially as a receiver, he might be another contributor, right? I said Dalton Kincaid could be a key difference maker in the first round. I think James Cook could be a key difference maker in the second. And then defensively, Von Miller healthy. Huge difference maker here for the playoffs. He is a big-time playmaker in the playoffs. And you've got a great pass rush with Floyd added to this mix, with Rousseau, with Ed Oliver, all these guys, Poona Ford, a great deep D-line that I think can get to Mahomes. And a secondary that I think has enough, right? I don't think they're going to slow down the Chiefs because they typically don't play too well in the playoffs, but I feel like they're going to have their moments. Like that pass rush with Von Miller and company are going to make enough big plays to allow them to win this game in a shootout, something like 34-31 for the Bills in a cold but just awesome divisional matchup. The AFC Championship game would see a rematch of the divisional round last year. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, you just know it's going to be Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. These guys are going to be in it, right? Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. The Bills now going to Cincinnati to try to do to the Bengals what they did to them last year. Go to their house and destroy them. But I just think the Bengals know how to play the Bills. They know how to match up, and they just had that. It was so decisive last year. It's hard for me to imagine a year later with a healthy Bengals offensive line in my mind and a defense that might be even deeper. I can't see the Bills beating this Bengals team in Cincinnati. So while I do believe the Bills won't back down, and I do believe it will be a closer game, and I do believe the Bills defense will be healthier, and they won't get pushed over, I think Joe Burrow and the Bengals, this is their year to come out of the AFC. So I have them going to the Super Bowl and defeating the Bills 31-27 in the AFC Championship game. Now, let's move to the NFC side of the bracket. We got to begin with the number 2 versus the number 7. It's the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry World hosting the Green Bay Packers. We've seen this one before, folks. We've seen this one before. 2014, Dez caught it. 2016, yes, Dez caught it. He caught it. 2016, Dak Prescott and that Cowboys number 1 seed losing to Aaron Rodgers, right? This time, though, no Aaron Rodgers. The Dallas Cowboys win, and they win decisively. Jordan Love has a kind of a rookie moment or a too young for this moment type of game, and the Cowboys dominate. The Cowboys defense gets to Love, They can't really run the ball. Gilmore or Diggs are all over Watson, and there's just not enough offensively for the Packers. And on the other side of the ball, Dallas's balanced attack, led by a big game from Tony Pollard, comes through in a big way. So I think the Cowboys blow the doors off the Packers at home. The number 3 seed versus the number 6 seed is going to be the Detroit Lions and the Seattle Seahawks. I know I said multiple times the Seahawks were the number 5. They're the number 6. They play the Detroit Lions. This one would be an either way type of game, kind of reminiscent of the Vikings and Giants last year, where you could have argued either team could win that game. This one could go either way, man. So I feel like the Lions, if they can run the ball, they could really win. But at the same time, I feel like Seattle has the more explosive passing game, and they've got the more experienced coach. And I think that's where it's the edge for me. I don't have enough faith in the Lions' passing attack, and I don't have enough faith in Dan Campbell over Pete Carroll. I just think in that moment, I got to take Pete Carroll's team. So despite Goff being more experienced than Geno in the playoffs, I'm going to take Geno, his receiving core, Kenneth Walker, that young Seahawks defense, to go to Detroit in a track meet type of game and survive. I think Pete Carroll will manage the game better and do the little things better from a coaching standpoint than Dan Campbell. I just think he is the more experienced coach in these moments. So I think Pete Carroll and the Seahawks advance to the divisional round of the NFC. And the final matchup in the wild card round of the NFC is the number 4 and the number 5. We have the number 4 Atlanta Falcons taking on the number 5 Philadelphia Eagles. And this one is a mismatch. I will say the Atlanta Falcons, I think, will in the first quarter or first half compete. I think they will keep it close because they'll run the ball a lot, and they will keep the Eagles on their toes. Kind of like how Washington did to the Eagles last year. But I think in the second half of this game, the Eagles will pull away at home. Their pass rush will start to get home. The Falcons will struggle to throw the ball, and the Eagles will pull away to advance to the divisional round to take on the Dallas Cowboys. But first, I've got to discuss the 49ers and the Seahawks, another divisional matchup in the divisional round. Brock Purdy, fresh, rested, ready to go, versus the Seattle Seahawks, the third matchup. This game won't be easy for the 49ers. Pete Carroll has played Kyle Shanahan well, but ultimately, this is not the game the Seahawks want to play. 49ers, I think, are the tougher, more physical football team, and I think that's why they win this game. I think they run the ball. I think they stop the run. I think their pass rush is overwhelming, and I feel like that is why they come through. It's not the pretty things that the Niners do. It's not the play calling. It's not the crazy playmakers. It's the D-line. It's the physicality. It's the run game. The Niners ultimately win. They grind it out. They win it. They advance to the NFC Championship game. In the other divisional matchup, you've got the Dallas Cowboys, the Philadelphia Eagles in Dallas instead of Philadelphia, which strips that Lincoln Financial Field away. The Philadelphia, the Rocky statue, away from the Eagles. So you can't put no jersey on the Rocky statue for this one. And there's going to be so much emotion coming from the Philadelphia and the Cowboys sidelines. And I think this is a big moment for the Cowboys. I think this is the biggest game they've played in years. And I think they come through. But it's not because of the offense. It's because of the defense. I think the defense has a phenomenal game plan and performance led by Dan Quinn and Micah Parsons, and they stifle the Philadelphia attack. The Dallas Cowboys offensively will do enough to be balanced, to make enough throws in the passing game. Brandon Cooks makes a couple big catches, and they're able to win 20-17 over the Philadelphia Eagles. And the NFC Championship game will be the 1 seed versus the 2 seed, unlike the AFC. The 49ers will take on the Dallas Cowboys in an 80s, 90s reminiscent NFC Championship matchup. And just like those games, a majority of the time, the San Francisco 49ers will find a way to come out on top because they just kind of own Dallas. And it's hard for me to imagine the Dallas Cowboys overcoming the edge that is Kyle Shanahan versus Mike McCarthy. And I think that makes all the difference. I think Shanahan will outcoach Mike McCarthy. And that's pretty much it, man. Like, I feel like both teams are amazing. Both teams, I think Dallas might be actually slightly better in terms of their roster, in terms of the defense at this time of the year. But I feel like the Niners have home field. The Niners have Kyle Shanahan. The Niners have all those playmakers. And I just don't know if Dallas can stifle everything. The run game, the pass game, Kittle at tight end, Debo, Ayuk. It's a lot to handle. And then Dak, will he be able to come through in a shootout if it takes place? I don't think it will be a shootout. I think it will be a defensive game, kind of like last year's game. I just feel like Kyle will have a play call or two that will make the difference to win that game. So the 49ers and the Cincinnati Bengals will be the Super Bowl matchup, in my opinion. Definitely a lot tougher in the AFC. I could see 2 or 3 teams in the NFC making it. Ultimately, I've decided on the Niners. This Super Bowl would be an 80s matchup and rematch for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think it's the 49ers year, and I haven't picked the 49ers to win the Super Bowl in a long, I don't think ever. Maybe I've picked them to go to the Super Bowl before. I don't think I've ever picked them to win the Super Bowl before the year started. What has me convinced is they have an elite defense. They have an elite play caller. They have elite playmakers. The second-year quarterback thing. Second-year quarterback. Mahomes, right, in his second season in the NFL, in terms of starting, won the Super Bowl. Ben Roethlisberger did it. Russell Wilson did it. Tom Brady did it. There's something about second-year quarterbacks where they have a great run and they're able to win the Super Bowl. So the matchup would be phenomenal. It would go either way. But I think the 49ers have the more elite unit on defense capable of slowing down the Bengals. I think the Bengals defense would struggle a little bit with the 49ers' diverse and creative attack. I think they play during the regular season, and I think that could be a preview for the Super Bowl. So pay attention to that game. I have the 49ers winning the Super Bowl this year. My MVP, I'm going to go with a running back, because why not? There's been so much made of the running back position this offseason. Give me Christian McCaffrey to win the MVP of the Super Bowl. Those are my full season NFL predictions. The Bottom Line View season preview for 2023-2024. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And I hope you guys enjoyed my predictions. Let me know yours in the comment section below. If you did, Gronk spike the like button, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Have fun with this season, guys. I know I will. Peace.